Media Play News presents 25 Years of Digital Entertainment Part 2, The Digital Stream. The March 1997 US debut of DVD was not only the most successful consumer electronics product launch in history, it was also the start of the digital revolution in home entertainment. Without DVD, there would be no Blu-ray disc or 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray, still the format of choice of movie purists and collectors. Without DVD, there would be no digital distribution or streaming. That's right, no Netflix, no Disney+, no HBO Max. DVD's compact size and high capacity also made it feasible to put entire TV series in one neat little package, which led to binge watching, rooted in the TV on DVD explosion of the early 2000s, and now part of popular jargon and a regular habit thanks to Netflix. As a Microsoft tribute ad to Warren Lieberfarb, the Warner Home Video president, hailed as the father of DVD, noted, "The shiny little digital disc helped usher in a new era of technology that changed the world." Media Play News is celebrating 25 years of digital entertainment with a two-part retrospective. In Part 1, we chronicled the development, launch, and rise of DVD and its two successor disc formats, Blu-ray disc and 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. In Part 2, we'll trace the history of digital distribution, including electronic sell-through, digital rental, and streaming.
Pay-per-view is your choice for top Hollywood entertainment. With pay-per-view, the hits come right into your home, hassle-free, instantly. It's the easy way to treat friends and family to first-run fun. And everyone watches for one low price, making pay-per-view one of the best entertainment values around. Just pick the showing you want to see and follow the simple pay-per-view ordering instructions. Before you know it, you'll be enjoying the movie of your choice right in your home. Big hits, small price. There's nothing to it when you pay-per-view it.
The digital distribution of movies and other filmed content always had a seductive appeal to Hollywood, even before the launch of DVD. The prospect of no manufacturing costs, no shipping expense, and perhaps best of all, no returns was like a utopian dream, sweetened ever more so by the fact that transactions could be conducted directly with the consumer. The studios could finally cut out the middleman, which in the early days of home video actually consisted of two middlemen, wholesalers and retailers, both of whom siphoned off profits the studios would much rather keep all to themselves. A key part of DVD's legacy is the mass digitization of film content that followed its March 1997 US debut. Because the DVD audience was so hungry, the studios opened their vaults and digitized their libraries. This opened the door for more viewing versatility in the future, particularly as digital distribution took hold in two branches: transactional video on demand, or TVOD, and streaming. Even in the glory days of the VHS videocassette, there was a precedent for movies and other filmed content being brought to consumer homes without a physical component, pay-per-view, which gave the rental business a good scare in the late 1980s and early 90s. The vision of pay-per-view on the cable end originated in the late 1970s with Cube, a two-way interactive system introduced by Warner Amex Cable Communications, the cable TV joint venture of Warner Communications and American Express in Columbus, Ohio. The first pay-per-view cable channels in the United States appeared in 1985, with names such as Viewer's Choice, Cable Video Store, and Request TV. But pay-per-view had one flaw that kept it from capturing the majority of consumers who had taken to renting videocassettes for their evening entertainment: the inability to offer on-demand viewing, with the option to pause, stop, go forward, or go back. The best the cable companies could do was offer staggered starting times, but even then, viewers were not in control the way they were when watching a videocassette. The concept of video on demand, or VOD, was an appealing one, not just to cable companies, but also to the new Baby Bell telephone companies that had been established as a result of the 1982 antitrust breakup of AT&T. The challenge was how to squeeze a movie into the limited bandwidth of a copper cable, which was fine for a speech signal but woefully inadequate for a movie. Video on demand only became possible as a result of two major technological developments: MPEG video compression and asymmetric digital subscriber line, a data communications technology that enables faster data transmission. VOD development efforts picked up in the early 1990s, particularly after the Baby Bells were given the green light to provide video services, which previously had been forbidden under the Cable Communications Policy Act of 1984. In 1991, the Time Warner New York City Cable Group in Queens, New York, launched the nation's only 150-channel cable TV system, a big jump over the 35 or so channels the typical cable household could receive. At the time, the LA Times said the Time Warner project, which is starting out slowly with 10,000 subscribers in 2 neighborhoods, is a model of what's in store for the rest of the country. Warner Home Video president Warren Lieberfarb remembers the reaction.
It was the announcement of the 150-channel pay-per-view system with its offerings based on staggered start times that gave consumers significantly more choice. That really triggered a significant sell-off of Blockbuster stock and caused Wade and Heisinger to try to find a buyer as he saw the writing on the wall as to where the future of transmitted distribution was going.
In 1994, Huizinga did in fact sell Blockbuster to Viacom Inc. In October 1992, Bell Atlantic announced a VOD trial in northwestern Virginia. The following January, the Washington Post reported that Blockbuster Entertainment Corp., at the time the biggest video rental chain, was talking to Bell Atlantic about providing movies to the new service. Blockbuster, the Post said, apparently has decided to join the upcoming video-on-demand revolution in television rather than fight it. Telecommunications Inc., or TCI, the country's largest cable television company, also was experimenting with VOD. Video retailers troubled by TCI Carolco pay-per-view venture screamed a front-page headline in Billboard's May 6, 1993 issue about a new deal between the cable giant and the film company. I can't imagine any sane executive in Hollywood wanting to tamper with its main revenue source, Blockbuster Senior Programming VP Ron Castell told The Trade. He noted that while home video generated $4.1 billion in revenue in 1992, pay-per-view, the terms back then were often interchangeable, brought in less than $100 million. Mike Fidler, who in the early 1990s was working for Pioneer Electronics, says the cable companies were particularly aggressive in developing VOD capabilities.
The major cable companies were developing advanced technologies for higher bandwidth to bring more on-demand content with better quality and real-time delivery to drive new revenue as well as compete with the anticipated arrival of telcos in their space.
But the promise of VOD never quite materialized. The cable companies were also in a race with satellite providers to expand their channels and grow their bundles. The telcos didn't have the last mile into the broad consumer market that the cable companies had, and they were focused on moving into the mobile and internet markets. And the home video and consumer electronics industries were enamored with something called the DVD. Mike Dunn, who at the time was a senior marketing executive at 20th Century Fox Home Video, remembers those days well.
The studios were focused on DVD, which is exploding way beyond belief. At the time, to the cable companies, VOD was an orphan stepchild that didn't have enough penetration demand to make it worthwhile. It was just a small niche business.
DVD was such a cash cow that it was perched atop the sequential distribution systems that studios had implemented to maximize post-theatrical revenue. This window strategy saw new theatrical releases come to DVD first and to every other distribution channel, including video on demand, weeks or even months later. Mike Dunn recalls,
You had the whole retail community between Walmart and Target and Best Buy and Amazon on the run. DVD became the hot retail product, and given the investment of retail, we had a window to give DVD an edge.
Concerns over illegal digital distribution finally got Hollywood's attention. Studios had seen what had happened to the record industry. Because CDs were not encrypted, they could easily be copied and shared via a computer and the internet. And when the record companies responded to a slowdown in CD sales by hiking list prices and killing the single, which cost the same to manufacture as a full CD album, angry consumers took to the emerging internet and began swapping digital song files on sites such as Napster. Ben Feingold, president of home entertainment for what is now Sony Pictures from 1994 to 2006, said he and his fellow home video executives feared that with greater bandwidth capacity, the same thing could happen to movies, but were told by the Motion Picture Association of America, or MPAA, that the studios had to have a platform of their own or they couldn't sue the pirates. Sony and Warner agreed to lead a multi-studio consortium to finance and commercialize a digital distribution venture that became known as MovieLink. 4 studios, all the majors except Disney and Fox, put up $35 million to fund the project, which, with Justice Department approval, launched in November 2002. It allowed video files to be formatted to be compatible with both the Real Video Player and the Microsoft Media Player. The new service, however, didn't make much noise, nor did a similar venture, Cinema Now, that had been established earlier by a group that included Lionsgate and Microsoft. In 2003, the Walt Disney Company launched MovieBeam, a VOD service in which movies were sent wirelessly into subscriber homes through unused public broadcasting service station frequencies. The movies were then downloaded onto a hard drive inside a set-top box that consumers had to purchase for around $150. This box was connected to MovieLink servers by telephone lines so that consumers could be charged each time they rented a movie, $1.99 for catalog, up to $4.99 for new releases. MovieBeam, too, failed to catch on, as retailers had a hard time explaining how it worked to their customers. Besides, DVD was booming. It was only in the mid-2000s, when the furious growth of DVD at last began to subside, that the studios revved up their commitment to VOD. And as they had in the early days of VHS, they focused their effort on sales rather than rentals through what they called electronic sell-through, or EST. The first EST platform, from Starz, was Vongo, which debuted in January 2006. Vongo was a movie download service in which subscribers, for $10 a month, could download as many movies as they wanted to, playable only on computers or portable devices that ran Microsoft's media player. Sony agreed to provide the new service with movies. In April 2006, Sony Pictures and 5 other major studios, MGM, Paramount, 20th Century Fox, Universal Pictures, and Warner Brothers, began to sell digital copies of their movies on MovieLink and Cinema Now. Multi-channel news noted at the time, the purchase price is higher than what DVDs sell for in store, with MovieLink executives citing the download convenience and multi-PC access for the roughly $10 in price difference.
In today's busy world, going to the video store is a hassle. With Netflix, you just make a list of the movies you want to see, and you'll get your first DVDs in about 1 business day. Keep them as long as you want without late fees. Return one in this prepaid envelope, and they'll automatically send you another movie from your list. My lady, we are the romance movie from Netflix. We hope our presents will be to your liking.
There's a movie waiting for you at home. Netflix. All the DVDs you want, starting at only $9.99 a month, no late fees.
A month later, a skeptical Washington Post observed, "There's never been a better time to get movies online, as long as you're paying Netflix, Amazon, or some other company to ship a DVD to you. If you want to download the movie, however, you're going to be frustrated." Still, 3 years after Apple's iTunes Music Store brought online music sales to life, the movie industry continues to treat web distribution as an experiment it can tinker with at its leisure. The latest belated addition to the movie download market is the ability to purchase movies instead of just renting them. If you must obtain a movie in the next few hours but can't leave your house or have anybody else pick up the flick, these 2 Windows-only stores might work. Otherwise, it's unclear who would bother with them. They stock far too few movies, charge too much for them, offer them at a quality inferior to any DVD, and grossly restrict your use of these purchases. Credit the late Steve Jobs, the celebrated co-founder of Apple, with jump-starting the EST business in the wake of Apple's October 2005 launch of the 5th generation iPod, the first to play videos. The only drawback, no content. That would soon change. Feingold recalls that before the video iPod launched, he received a frantic phone call from Jobs on his BlackBerry, asking for movies. So, Feingold flew to San Francisco and met with the Apple chief, who showed him a prototype for the video iPod. Jobs had already launched the iTunes Store, but only with songs. Now, he wanted movies as well. In September 2006, Apple began selling Disney movies on its iTunes Music Store, with an initial allotment of 75 titles, including Pirates of the Caribbean and Cars. Apple founder Steve Jobs personally announced the deal and promised that new films would be available online for just $12.99 on the same day as their arrival on DVD.
There is one more thing, and that is movies. Today we're going to talk about adding movies to the iTunes Store and the whole iPod iTunes experience. Movies are going to be available on the iTunes Store the same day as they are released on DVD.
Here we go again. First music, then TV shows, and now movies, Jobs said in an Apple press release announcing the deal. In less than 1 year, we've grown from offering just 5 TV shows to offering over 220 TV shows, and we hope to do the same with movies. iTunes is selling over 1 million videos a week, and we hope to match this with movies in less than a year. Things progressed rapidly over the next 2 years. Other studios followed Disney onto Apple iTunes. Paramount signed on in January 2007, followed by Lionsgate in February and MGM in April. At the end of the year, Apple Insider reported that 20th Century Fox also would make its films available on Apple iTunes, and not just for sale, but also for rent. The publication noted that the deal wouldn't be officially announced until after the holidays so as not to interfere with DVD sales. Also, other studios were concerned that supporting Apple would lead to the same type of market dominance in the digital distribution of movies that Apple had achieved with music. In the meantime, Sony Pictures, Universal Studios, and Warner Brothers had already started distributing movies on rival services that had sprung up from Walmart stores and Amazon.com, which had launched its own Amazon Unbox movie downloading platform in September 2006, at the same time as Apple. Unbox was later rebranded as Amazon Video on Demand, but was subsequently scrapped in favor of Amazon Instant Video, the precursor to today's Prime Video, which offers both subscriptions and transactional VOD. By May 2008, all three studios were also providing Apple iTunes with new movies on the same day as the DVD release. Time Warner's then CEO, Jeff Bewkes, also said Warner Brothers would begin releasing the majority of its titles on cable VOD, also on the same day as the DVD. During his keynote address at Macworld 2008, Jobs announced the launch of movie rentals in the iTunes Store, like EST releases available on the same day as the DVD.
Oh, hello. I'd like to tell you about Netflix. It's an amazing service that lets you watch unlimited movies and TV episodes instantly. You watch Netflix on your PC or on your TV through a game console or other devices connected to the internet.
Wow, that's fast.
Best of all, Netflix is only $8 a month. But don't listen to a beaver. Take it from the fish.
It's true. Start your free trial today.
While Apple was making headlines with its digital movie distribution efforts, Netflix was quietly making plans to distribute movies electronically as well, although in a different way. After finishing 2006 with 6.3 million subscribers to its DVD by mail rental service, the company on January 16, 2007, introduced a streaming service called Watch Now that allowed subscribers to instantly watch movies and TV shows on their personal computers. Watch Now started out with just 1,000 titles, ranging from vintage classics such as Casablanca to cult and foreign films as well as miniseries. The service was free to subscribers of the company's then $5.99 a month disc plan, although they were limited to just 6 hours of streaming per month. CEO Reed Hastings told Forbes at the time, "DVDs sell for about $16 each, and a lot of companies, like Apple and Amazon, focused on that download-to-own number in their online video strategies. That involves files, complex applications. We focused on convenience and simplicity." Streaming soon became even more convenient and simple when viewership was extended from the PC to the TV through a Roku set-top box and before long, other streaming devices, including Blu-ray disc players. Netflix's streaming business grew slowly at first, but accelerated when the company began introducing newer and higher-profile movies from the major studios, which were stung by slowing DVD sales and the failure of Blu-ray disc to be a similarly big business. In October 2008, Netflix announced an agreement with Starz to make about 2,500 movies and concerts available for instant streaming. Earlier in the year, Starz had signed 3-year movie output deals with Sony and Disney, and separate library deals with Warner Brothers, MGM, and Universal. Those deals included Vongo, which Starz shuttered in August, 2 months before the Netflix deal. A Wired story from the following year elaborates the significance of the Netflix-Starz deal. Each studio usually signs with just one pay channel. All Warner Brothers movies appear only on HBO, while Sony's go to Starz. After a few months, the pay TV networks hand off their rights to broadcasters and ad-supported cable stations. A few years later, the premium channels get the films back, giving them exclusive rights to air them. The windowing system can keep films locked up for years. Unless Hastings and Chief Content Officer Ted Sarandos could find a way around the windowing system, it would be a challenge to show any major movies that had been released in the recent past. Then they discovered a loophole. Why couldn't Starz sell Netflix the rights to air its movies? The studios were stunned. "This is the last thing you want," moaned one studio executive. "More eyeballs with no incremental revenue." Any moaning didn't last long. In January 2010, Warner Brothers Home Entertainment cut a deal with Netflix to make new DVD and Blu-ray disc titles available to Netflix disc rental subscribers after a 28-day window. At the same time, a renewed and expanded license for Warner Brothers streaming content will allow Netflix to offer its members more movies they can watch instantly, the news release stated, almost as an aside. Similar deals with 20th Century Fox and Universal followed in April. Then, in August 2010, Netflix announced it would pay nearly $1 billion during the next 5 years for streaming rights to movies from Paramount, Lionsgate, and MGM, just 90 days after they appear on the Epix pay TV movie channel, a joint venture between the three studios. The Associated Press observed at the time that the agreement marks another breakthrough in Netflix's bid to stock its online streaming library with more compelling material so it can keep its subscription service relevant as more households order entertainment through high-speed internet connections. The online streaming push also helps the company reduce its postage bill for mailing DVDs to its 15 million subscribers. Analysts believe the influx of newer movies will enable Netflix to maintain its rapid growth of the past 2 years, lifting its earnings even higher despite the hefty licensing fees. In November 2010, Netflix launched a streaming-only plan in the United States, 2 months after starting a similar plan in Canada. What many saw as Netflix's biggest prize came in December 2012, when it inked a multi-year licensing agreement with the Walt Disney Company that would make it the exclusive U.S. subscription television service for first-run live-action and animated feature films beginning in 2016. The deal also included immediate access to Disney classics such as Dumbo, Pocahontas, and Alice in Wonderland, with high-profile direct-to-video releases also on board beginning in 2013. Netflix stock immediately jumped 14% on the news. Ben Feingold believes the rush to sell movies to Netflix was a bad idea. Not only did it devalue films by including them on an all-you-can-watch subscription platform, he said, but it also enabled Netflix to grow stronger at the studio's expense. Studio executives, he said, were short-sighted. They were focused on making their numbers and little else. But you should never let short-term profits affect your strategy, Feingold maintains. Warren Lieberfarb, Warner Home Video president from 1982 to 2002, also felt selling movies to Netflix was a bad idea.
Licensing product to Netflix would ultimately prove to be cannibalistic to linear cable networks, pay cable networks, ad-supported cable networks, and broadcast television that were owned, in fact, by the same studio's parent company. And those networks were the largest sources of profits for the media conglomerates. The studios were creating a behemoth that in later years that they would try to copy, but in the interim, they were threatening their own cable and broadcast interests.
The push for newer, better movies paid off. In 2012, streaming brought in an estimated $2.34 billion, up 45.8% from the prior year and nearly twice the revenue generated just 2 years earlier. But by then, Netflix was no longer the only game in town. Hulu, a joint venture between News Corp, NBC Universal, and the Walt Disney Company to aggregate recent episodes from their respective television networks for free showing over the internet, launched a subscription streaming service called Hulu Plus in June 2010 that featured full seasons of TV shows. Then, in February 2012, Amazon launched a free streaming service for Amazon Prime subscribers while continuing to offer transactional rentals and sales through the Amazon Video Store. Meanwhile, studios continued to pursue their dream of selling movies digitally rather than physically, with no manufacturing or shipping costs and no returns. First, they added digital copies to Blu-ray discs and DVDs. Then they began giving digital releases an early window, generally 2 weeks before the disc. Sony Pictures kicked things off in October 2011 with Bad Teacher, followed by 30 Minutes or Less in November. The studio liked the results, Deadline reported at the time. Sony says total digital revenues were 24% higher than comparable films released the same day as discs.
Introducing Ultraviolet, an all-new way to collect, access, and enjoy your movies and TV shows in the cloud. The world's leading entertainment companies, retailers, service providers, and electronics manufacturers have come together to bring you Ultraviolet. So no matter how or where you like to shop, just look for the Ultraviolet logo. Ultraviolet, your movies in the cloud.
To further goose digital movie sales, 5 of the 6 major studios banded together to support Ultraviolet, an initiative to provide disc buyers with a digital rights locker that enabled consumers to play back their purchased content on participating retailer sites. Ultraviolet, launched in the fall of 2011, allowed consumers to access their purchased content anytime, anywhere, on a wide variety of devices from smartphones to tablets. Even so, EST grew slowly, in part because of the split between Disney and the other studios. Disney launched its own digital locker in February 2014 called Disney Movies Anywhere. Ultraviolet stumbled along for several more years, hampered by the lack of key digital retailers Apple, Amazon, and Google, before being shut down in 2019. By then, another digital locker had emerged, Movies Anywhere, an outgrowth of Disney Movies Anywhere. But again, studio support was not unanimous. This time the holdouts were, and remain, Paramount and Lionsgate. Observers say pricing was a key factor as well. Consumers had grown accustomed to lower prices for digital content through ebooks and music, and yet digital movies were priced equal to, or higher than, a DVD or Blu-ray disc. Studio efforts to grow digital sales as well as rentals, a business model that by then was being called transactional video on demand, or TVOD, were aided by the emergence of several other high-profile digital retailers. One of the first was Microsoft, which launched its video service in 2006, the same year as Apple and Amazon. Pedro Gutierrez is the business and marketing category lead for entertainment, consumer applications, and advertising at Microsoft. He said the tech-savvy gamers of the Xbox 360 quickly adapted to the instant accessibilities of movies with the Xbox Video Store in 2006.
This gamer audience helped fuel the business in the understanding of digital distribution at the time when TVs were not as smart and broadband penetration was starting to reach a larger audience.
Then came Vudu, which in 2009 became the first VOD service to sell downloads of high-definition movies. A year later, Vudu was acquired by Walmart, whose own attempts to begin selling movies digitally in 2007 had failed due to the popularity of iTunes. Others followed, including Google Play in February 2012, Fandango Now, an offshoot of the popular movie ticket service in 2016, and Redbox On Demand in December 2017. On the cable side, one of the biggest developments was the November 2013 announcement by cable titan Comcast Corporation that it planned to start selling movies via set-top boxes and its Xfinity TV website. At the time, Radio and Television Business Report noted that the move shouldn't be difficult since movie studios are actively looking for ways to increase digital sales as customers continue to move away from DVD purchases. Comcast achieved modest success because it promoted the sale and rental of movies and provided an on-screen program guide. In 2012, according to DEG estimates, digital rentals generated just under $2 billion in consumer spending, while digital purchases, or EST, brought in $811 million. Together, that's more than consumers spent on streaming. But 5 years later, in 2017, digital rentals and sales combined generated an estimated $4.1 billion, less than half the $9.6 billion generated by subscription streaming. A lot had happened on the streaming end in those 5 years. Netflix accelerated its international expansion efforts, which had begun in Canada in 2010. By 2017, the streamer had a presence in 190 countries. The Harvard Business Review notes, how did it expand so quickly? First, it didn't enter all markets at once. It started slowly, in countries that were similar to its US home market. Using what it learned in these markets, it expanded to a few dozen countries by 2015, and then continued learning and growing from there. At the January 2016 CES, Netflix announced a major international expansion into some 130 new territories, including most countries in Africa. That marks a substantial increase in the size of Netflix's global network, which previously spanned 60 countries in North America, Latin America, Europe, and in the Pacific, the LA Times noted at the time. Now, Netflix has services in more than 190 countries, including Russia, India, South Korea, and Saudi Arabia. Netflix's global growth strategy was rooted in localism. The company developed programming that would appeal to specific countries and regions and invested heavily in local language options for both dubbing and subtitling. Netflix also took technology into account and deployed dedicated servers for streaming in countries where broadband capacity wasn't up to snuff. Netflix also shifted its domestic strategy from relying on Hollywood movies to producing and acquiring its own content, beginning with Lilyhammer in 2012. A year later came House of Cards, the first original web series to snag major Emmy nominations, and then the much-lauded Orange is the New Black. In 2016, Netflix released 126 original movies and shows, and the following year announced its intent to have original content account for half its programming menu at a cost of $8 billion. Mike Fiedler remembers Netflix's initial push into original content well.
It's the old adage that content is king. As Netflix became more powerful with their subscription universe, it became essential for them to develop their own content, to go beyond Hollywood movies to international programs and serial programming with less dependence on first-run movies.
This year, Netflix is expected to spend $18 billion on original content, with a 2022 pipeline consisting of 68 feature films and just under 400 original series. Success invariably breeds envy, so it was no surprise that as Netflix grew, so did talk of high-profile competition beyond Amazon Prime Video, whose size no one really knows for sure because subscriptions include free shipping from the parent company, and Hulu, whose focus has always been on TV product. In November 2019 came Disney Plus, a streaming service launched by Walt Disney Company, and Apple TV Plus, a streamer from Apple.
WHO has been assessing this outbreak around the clock, and we're deeply concerned both by the alarming levels of spread and severity and by the alarming levels of inaction. We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic. Pandemic is not a word to use lightly or carelessly.
Then, just as people began talking about streaming wars, came the pandemic. The World Health Organization's March 2020 declaration of a worldwide COVID-19 health crisis triggered a surge in streaming, with theaters shuttered and people told to stay home. Restrictions loosened, then tightened again at the end of the year with a second wave of the virus. Warner Media had a captive audience for the May 2020 launch of HBO Max, as did NBC Universal for the July 2020 debut of Peacock. The streaming business got another big boost in December when Warner Media announced it would release its entire 2021 slate of 17 high-profile feature films simultaneously in theaters and on HBO Max, beginning on Christmas Day 2020 with Wonder Woman 1984. Consumer spending on streaming had already begun climbing, from an estimated $12.9 billion in 2018 to $15.9 billion in 2019. But 2020 saw the biggest gain yet, a whopping 37.2% increase to $21.2 billion, or 70% of total consumer spending on home entertainment, according to estimates from DEG, the Digital Entertainment Group. For the transactional business, both physical and digital, the pandemic proved a double-edged sword. On the one hand, homebound consumers were hungry for entertainment, which is why they flocked to streaming. But on the other, the closure of movie theaters prompted studios to postpone major new theatrical releases or hand them off early to their SVOD subsidiaries. And while the pandemic did make premium video on demand a reality, with studios premiering the movies they didn't hold back to home viewers at a higher purchase or rental price, the revenues generated by PVOD weren't credited to home entertainment. Our estimate is there's $1 billion of consumer spend that's not captured in the numbers that you're presenting, Universal Pictures Home Entertainment President Michael Bonner said in an August 2021 DEG presentation in which the trade group announced its first half home entertainment spending estimates. Still, DEG estimated significant gains for the digital side of the transactional business in 2020, with consumer spending on digital rentals up 18.3% to $2.3 billion, and spending on digital purchases, or EST, up 16% to nearly $3 billion. In the following year, 2021, DEG estimated that transactional digital sales and rentals, stung by a continued lack of product and early windows for streaming services, fell 21% to a combined total of $4.19 billion. Streaming, meanwhile, posted another 20% gain in consumer spending to an estimated $25.3 billion, or 80% of the home entertainment spending total. Netflix finished the year with a global subscriber count of 222 million, 75 million of them in the United States and Canada, while Disney Plus, in its latest earnings release, said it had nearly 130 million subscribers worldwide, 42.9 million of them in North America. Apple proved to be a non-starter, although on a January 2022 earnings call, Apple CEO Tim Cook, while providing no numbers, said the whole intent was to give storytellers a place to tell original stories. HBO Max, combined with its linear sibling, HBO, ended 2021 with 73.8 million subscribers, more than 46 million of them domestic. Peacock, in January 2022, announced that it had 9 million paid subscribers at the end of 2021 and would double its budget for original content to $3 billion in the new year. The competition intensified in 2021 with the January launch of Discovery Plus and the March debut of Paramount Plus. Both services ended the year with the respective subscriber counts of 22 million and 32.8 million. And yet, the streaming business is not without its challenges. In industry circles, there's more and more talk of streaming fatigue as the cost of stacking multiple subscriptions rises. A TiVo study last year found the average consumer is spending $142.20 a month on high-speed internet and SVOD, more than the average $100 cable bill. And there's a relatively new kid in town, ad-supported VOD, that takes away some of the sticker shock in return for commercials, just like broadcast TV. Some services are discounted, others are completely free, and some don't even require subscriptions. Redbox, the company known for its more than 40,000 bright red kiosks offering DVD and Blu-ray disc rentals, is in the midst of a digital transformation focused on streaming. Redbox CEO Galen Smith says the resurgence of home entertainment after the lean pandemic years has so far been dramatic.
It's a great time for entertainment right now, with people coming back to theaters and studios releasing more and bigger movies again. On our end, we want Redbox to be a full-service entertainment destination for everyone. So however they enjoy watching movies and shows, we want them to do it at Redbox.
What does the future have in store for digital entertainment? Most observers see consolidation ahead for SVOD services. Already, the newly minted Warner Bros. Discovery has announced plans to combine HBO Max with Discovery Plus, and continued growth for AVOD, with TVOD holding its own as more content enters the distribution channel. Redbox's Smith thinks that given the current economic conditions, including inflation and rising gas prices, consumers will begin cutting back on their SVOD services and attrition rates will rise.
Consumers will sign up for subscriptions in months when programming they're interested in is available and cancel after watching. It's going to be an interesting year given all these factors. I think you'll see consumers seeking cost-conscious entertainment options that include free options like AVOD and FAST services, as well as inexpensive new movie rentals like those at our Redbox kiosks.
And here's Paramount Home Entertainment President Bob Bushy's perspective.
The entertainment industry has flourished over time through a strategy of windowing that serves to maximize the revenue throughout the life cycle of a title, and it provides consumers with a variety of viewing options that best fit their lifestyle. With the proof of these last 25 years, we can be assured of the power of the theatrical experience and that home entertainment will continue to evolve and that multiple formats, both transactional and subscription, can and will continue to coexist and thrive.
Microsoft's Pedro Gutierrez agrees.
The only certainty for the future is the continued need to provide consumers with the choice on how they want to view their desired entertainment. There's an opportunity for SVOD, AVOD, and EST VOD to all coexist, which will result in varied growth and consumer shifts amongst the three service types. Entertainment enthusiasts will subscribe to the SVODs that has their favorite content. AVOD gives the consumer more limited, yet free access to content, and EST provides consumers with the ability to build their always accessible film library.
And what does Warren Lieberfarb, the man most responsible for the digital revolution through his push for DVD 25 years ago, have to say about all this? Consolidation among streamers is pretty much a given, he says, given the high cost of producing original content and maintaining a steady flow of current, expensive, quality product.
Attracting new subscribers, retaining existing subscribers, minimizing churn requires high-quality, audience-satisfying new production. This is akin to an arms race for audience attraction and retention.
As for AVOD, he's not sure.
Consumers have shown a willingness to pay for commercial-free content for over 50 years through ad-free cable, VHS rental, DVD, Blu-ray, and streaming. Commercial-free movies and TV shows are a highly engaging entertainment experience and one that I believe consumers will continue to be willing to pay for.
This podcast was produced by MediaPlay News. The text version of this feature can be found at MediaPlayNews.com. This podcast was narrated by Charles Parkman and produced by Charles Sholey.